Hey everyone, this is Scott back with the Dunlending Warcry. Today I'm going to be making a video going over the rules around Legolas and his shooting ability, and what he can do in a game, how it works, some examples on the table, and all that. Just to start, I want to cover just the baseline rules on how a model shoots. I'm not going to pull up all the text for that because it's pretty clear cut. As we'll see down the line, this whole thing is clear cut, but I'm going to make a video anyway, just to get everything out up there for people to see. For a model to shoot, they have to, at least with a bow, not have moved more than half. They can shoot as long as they are unengaged and they are targeting someone that is unengaged and there are no friendly models in the way. So a model, if they had someone in the way and they are a good model and that is their friend, they can't take that shot because they can't risk hitting a friendly. Similarly, a good model can't shoot into combat because they might hit their friend. You can't just self-sacrifice as much as the elves of Thranduil are evil and less wise. They cannot, in fact, kill their kin to try and shoot someone that is an enemy. Now, Legolas has a few exemptions for how his shooting works. So I'm going to read through his rule, and then we're going to go through and break down the different parts. Legolas may make 3 shooting attacks during the shoot phase instead of 1, using all the normal rules for shooting. Additionally, Legolas may still make shooting attacks whilst he is engaged in combat and does not suffer the -1 penalty to hit for moving and shooting so long as he has the infantry keyword. If Legolas shoots whilst he is engaged in combat, he may shoot at the models he is engaged in combat with and does not need to make in the way test for shooting at models he is engaged in combat with, though they may still block line of sight as normal. If you notice, they have a little grammatical error in there. It always bothers me reading this text. Do not need to make in the way test. They could have worded that better. Pinpoint shot. Instead of shooting normally, Legolas may make a single shooting attack against an enemy model engaged in combat with a friendly model, including himself. If he does, then if the 2-hit roll is successful, Legolas doesn't need to make any in the way rolls. The shot will automatically hit its target. On top of those 2 rules, we did get an FAQ last February in regards to the infantry spot. In Legolas's Deadly Shot special rule, does the so long as he have infantry keyword caveat apply only to the not suffering the -1 penalty to hit for moving and shooting part of the rule, or also being allowed to make shooting attacks whilst engaged in combat part of the rule? They have said that this caveat only applies to the not suffering the -1 penalty to hit for moving and shooting. Legolas may still make shooting attacks whilst engaged in combat if he is mounted. So that was the little clarification. We saw a lot of back and forth on how different areas ruled that until they dealt with it. He can shoot while he's on a horse, even while fighting. It's just he's going to have the penalty if he moved. Now, going back and doing a little bit of a breakdown as we go. So highlighting the different wording. So Legolas may make 3 shooting attacks during the shoot phase instead of 1. Normally, a model only makes 1. You need to have a special rule that allows you to make more than 1. And then using all the normal rules for shooting. Now, what that means is you can't move more than half and still shoot. I always like to joke about there's an Australian-based FAQ document. I don't know how wide it was used, but last edition, and one of their questions had to be answered: can Legolas move full and shoot? On top of a few others, like can Legolas shoot onto another table? Come on, guys. Um, he can't move more than half. He's still using a bow. He's still restricted by those actions. He still rolls to hit. He still does all the other stuff. He's got a few exemptions, but the baseline stuff, that's just how he works. Now, additionally, Legolas may still make shooting attacks whilst he's engaged in combat. So normally, if you're engaged, you can't shoot. You don't get to activate to shoot. You're restricted from that. But he can do that. He doesn't suffer the -1 penalty to hit for moving and shooting as long as he has the infantry keyword. So if he's on foot, if he's moving 3 inches, he can shoot. He's hitting on a 2-up every time. So for those that like to stay very stationary with Legolas for no reason, there's no reason to do that. If you have a better spot to get him to tactically, you can move along the way as you get there. Obviously, you're playing around Elven Cloaks and all that, or range on people, sure. But you don't have to stay still. Of course, keep an eye out for magic. If you move half and then they compel you half, you're not shooting, so watch out. Um, Now, if he shoots whilst he's engaged in combat, he can shoot at the models he's engaged in combat with and does not need to make in the way tests for shooting at the models he's engaged with combat with. And I'll cover the last caveat later. So that means while he can do his 3 shots however he wants, which another note is that they don't have to be at the same target. They don't have to be all 3 into his same combat or all 3 out. You can mix and match. You can do them one at a time. There are some people that are in the position that he should be always doing them all one at a time because he's got might. There's no real requirement to do that, but some people do it. What you really need to be looking at for Legolas, who already is super efficient, is getting the most of it and being as efficient as possible. Usually you want to go one at a time unless it's a clear cut, hey, do this, then this, then this. So you can still batch shoot, but you don't have to. Um, but if he's shooting at the models he's engaged with, he can shoot them. He doesn't have it in the way. There's no special exemption if he's alone versus having a friend in there. Is nothing to do with it. Nothing to do with that. Some people have made the claim that the having a friend in this in the combat is a restrictor because of the shooting into combat rules. He's clearly exempt from that. He doesn't make an in the way test for shooting at models he's engaged in combat with. If he couldn't shoot at it because a friend was in there, then he wouldn't be able to shoot at all because it doesn't say another friendly model. It says a friendly model. He is friendly to himself. He is not quite Gollum level of love and hate, but he does love himself. He is a friend to himself. He can shoot into combat even though there is a friendly there because it's his combat and he's ignoring that in the way. He gets to shoot. The last little bit, though they may still block line of sight as normal, that one trips a lot of people up. It does not say that he doesn't make an in the way for them shooting out. It is only no in the way shooting at them. So he doesn't take his own combat in the way, but they might be blocking shooting out. And if they are blocking shooting out, he does not ignore them. They are in the way. And then they are in the way with a friendly model. He cannot take that shot. Now, that one is a little more of needing a pedantic understanding of these rules. And maybe they don't intend for it to work that way, but that is what it says. They may still block line of sight as normal. Blocking line of sight is what causes an in the way. And then all the rules related to being a good model in the way trigger and stop deadly shot from working there. Now, pinpoint, as opposed to that, he makes a single shooting attack at a model engaged with a friendly model, which includes himself. They've redundantly added. And then if he does, if he hits, he hits. He doesn't have to do any in the ways. He's just going to hit him. Now, as you can see, there's no reason to pinpoint yourself. They mention that you could do it, but you can deadly shot into your own combat anyway. There is no reason that you would be able to pinpoint but not deadly shot the models in your own combat. You're not taking in the ways. Friendlies being there don't matter. Deadly shot works against things you're fighting. Pinpoint is going out. It's the most effective use. But sure, if you really wanted to, you could use it against your own. Um, on top of all this, of course, Legolas does have the sharpshooter rule. For those, I'm not going to add that on the screen, but when he's shooting at cavalry, he picks Mounter Rider. I think we're still looking for clarification via FAQ whether he can also pick passenger. That's another one that comes up quite often that is unclear at present. I would expect them to be able to. It makes sense, but they haven't added that in, so we don't really know. But that's the base level, just throwing words out there for 10 minutes straight of these rules. We're going to go and look at some examples now where I can show you, I think, all of the kind of different use cases for how these rules interact and even just general shooting notes. So switching over here to my TTS view. So you can see that I've started with an example here. Legolas is hanging about. He's got 3 Isengard orcs that have cornered him. I don't know when they engaged each other in combat, but I mean, I guess the books, there were orcs, to my knowledge, in Helm's Deep, so there we go. Let's assume that he had lost priority and he got charged. So all these orcs came in. So they're now fighting him. He's hanging around. He hasn't moved. He could have moved half if he did go first anyway. It is now the shoot phase. He can take his shots. So clearly he's trapped here. You can see from the top down. This is a nice triangle trap. There is nowhere for him to actually back away an inch in a straight line without going over bases. So he wants to try and free himself. He's got the ability to either use deadly shot or pinpoint. Clearly, of course, pinpoint is not as impactful here because it's one shot versus three. He can take 3 shots. Now he can do them together in this case. I think the most reasonable way to speed up the game would be to do them together and just elect, hey, if I kill one, I get one. If I get two, I get two. So let's say, for example, he wants to clear this guy to get the trap because he wants to be towards the middle of the board as an opening. So he's going to say, hey, I'm going to take my 3 shots at my guys that I'm fighting. I want to kill this guy if I get one, this guy also if I get two, and then if I get all 3, I get this guy. He can do them together there. He can do them one by one. There's really no limitation on how you do it. Whatever you think is the most efficient, whether it's for time sake purposes or even just spending might purposes, that sort of thing, seeing what happens before the next. But just remember, if you opt to do these one at a time, you're not going to be able to go back. So let's say, for example, he rolls it, he gets 2 hits, he gets 1-5, this guy's dead. He's now free. If he loses the duel, he can back away an inch. And then, hey, next turn he could just start running away. Or he can run 3 inches and fall over that way through the ground. Because even then, if these guys come up and charge him the following turn and also phase through the ground, hey, he can keep shooting. And let's say he pops out another one. That's pretty effective. He's starting to get where he wants to go, and then he's also clearing out orcs. So that's the base level deadly shot. Now we can look over at a general example. This has got a whole lot going on. This is Legolas out in the middle. He's got Papa Thranduil over on the side there, and then Sneaky Tariel fighting around the building there. And they are waylaid by orcs. Now, he's got a few different options when he gets to his shooting phase of what he wants to do here. There's a whole lot going on. But I'm going to quickly go pinpoint because that's the easiest one. So right now, with where Legolas is, Toriel's fighting over there. Thranduil's fighting over there. He sees that Thranduil is in a bit of a pickle. Let's say Thranduil was transfixed by Saruman, who's lurking out in the shadows, and he's now surrounded by 3 guys. Let's say he's at a might 2. This is not a great spot for Thranduil to be trapped in. He might kick the bucket. Let's say he's on 1 wound. Legolas says, "Hey, Papa, I'm gonna help you out, and I'm gonna send over a pinpoint to try and free you up." So we can look and we can see that, hey, beyond Legolas's sword being really obnoxious in our face right now, he can see the 3 orcs Thranduil is fighting. Now, he can't deadly shot them. They are engaged to combat with a friendly model. He does not get to shoot at models engaged with friendlies with deadly shot. Pinpoint he can. So he wants to pinpoint shot. He wants to look to free up Thranduil. The optimal way to clear, looking at this example, would be to take out this guy. Because this one, it's a little tight. He probably can get out still, but the terrain is tight. In an average game, you might not notice that little bit. So I think the general would be, hey, take out this guy. So Legolas rolls a 2 up. He ignores everything in the way. He hits, and he kills him. He rolls that 5, and he gets him killed. That's pinpoint. Pinpoint is pretty clear cut. There's not really any special things going on with it beyond you just hit. Now, another example of attempting to use pinpoint that he cannot do. So we can see here, Legolas cannot see this highlighted orc behind this building. Obviously, Toriel's there and fighting him, but he can't see him. So that's where the normal rules come in. If you can't see a model, you can't shoot him. You need line of sight. So this orc is behind a building. Legolas can do nothing about this. If he was over here and Legolas wanted to, he could deadly shot him, knowing the ways to try and clear him out. But being hidden behind the building, there is nothing he can do to help Legolas or help Toriel. So she's in there alone. Now, deadly shot. we can see with a grander example here of what people he can target. So, again, as I mentioned earlier, you don't have to take all three shots together. You can break it up. Look for what's most efficient. Let's imagine that there is, say, an objective over here, and you want to clear out these guys. Right now, if you look, Legolas is fighting this guy, and he is actually blocking. I messed up the example slightly. Let's put this guy like this, make it clearer. This guy is blocking him and him. He obstructs his normal, which means that this guy is in the way of those two, and he is in combat with Legolas. Legolas cannot take these shots at these two right now. It is not possible. Similarly, if he wanted to take out this spear, this shield guy is in the way. He's obstructing. He cannot take that shot at that spear. Now, that doesn't mean that he's never going to be able to shoot them. It's just right now he can't. He does have 3 shots. You can do one at a time and see what happens. He doesn't have to say with his 3 that he's shooting at 3 guys he's engaged with. It might be optimal to do that, but you don't have to. You can look to get the most value you want. So, for example, let's say he really needs to kill these 2. He's got to clear this guy first. If he shoots his first shot and he kills him, let's re-examine. Now there's no one blocking these 2 guys. He's got shots at them now. It's that easy. So he can then try and take them out. Let's do another little bit here. You can see, if he looks this way, that this spear support messed up. He came around the side instead of over here where he was potentially safe. And he's actually a clear shot for Legolas. Legolas can shoot out of his combat. He does not have to shoot at models he's engaged with. He may. So he can shoot this guy. And then if we look around on the backside here, he's got clear shots on these guys. Nothing stops him. Deadly shot lets you shoot the 3 shots at models you're engaged with, models you're not engaged with. You just have to watch out for models you are engaged with blocking line of sight as normal. If that happens, deadly shot can't be used, at least at that time. Again, the landscape changes as you get kills. You might be able to clear one with 1 shot to open up shots to other things, but these guys are most certainly in the way of shots with deadly shot if their models are in the way. That doesn't go away. Moving on to a third example is how the notation, I want to directly address the notation some people have made that a friendly model being in the same fight restricts deadly shot. It doesn't. So, for example, now this would be a terrible idea to use deadly shot, but Aragorn here is waylaid by 6 Uruk-hai. They're at Amon-Hen right now. You can see these nice woods in the background. And Legolas and Gimli charge this guy. They want to help Aragorn. Now, obviously, the clear tactical thing is there's a heroic combat there. They're charging in, of course. Legolas can still shoot this guy with deadly shot. There's no reason he couldn't. Gimli being in the same combat doesn't matter. It says there are no in-the-way tests. He can shoot at models he's engaged with. He is an exemption to the normal rules. So he can take that shot. He can also pop a pinpoint over to help Aragorn take out a guy. He cannot deadly shot any of these because they are engaged with a friendly model. If this guy couldn't quite make it in, let's say this was a slightly inefficient movement, which you see a lot more in person. Of course, this is TTS. I can get a lot more accurate, though in person you can do that too. Let's say, let's make this guy really messy with these stupid forward poses of the scouts. This guy was not engaged. Right now, this guy who Legolas is fighting is blocking line of sight as normal. So he cannot take this shot right now. However, if he wanted to, he could clear out this guy and then go into him with a further shot with his 3 deadly shots. But he's got to take this guy out first. Now, the last little bit is that quick FAQ that they made. Legolas woke up from a nap and suddenly has noticed that the forces of Isengard have been unleashed. So tens of thousands are just marching through. and he's just sitting here on his horse saying, "What the hell's going on?" Legolas, from this position, he wants to get the hell out of there. So he's going to run 5 inches. I don't think he's actually going to make it. He's still going to get charged. He's going to run 5 inches. He can still shoot. He's going to have that penalty, the -1. Nothing stops that. Now, let's say he lost priority the next turn, and he didn't do a heroic move, and this Uruk came and charged him. Legolas can still shoot at him. He can still shoot while mounted, while engaged. It's just the penalty he still gets for moving and shooting. That's the part that requires infantry. So he can still pop shots at this guy, especially as the forces of Isengard run in haphazardly and start poking at him. He can try and clear off what he can. Of course, he has to watch out for in the ways. But let's say this guy goes there. Hey, he's engaged in combat. He can still shoot. That guy's a clear shot. None of the guys that he's fighting are blocking him. He could take that shot. He can't shoot this pike because there's a guy blocking him. He can't pinpoint him because he's not engaged. So he can take a shot at that pike. He can try and clear this Uruk high to get at the pike behind him. He has a little bit of different things that he could do here. That is all the examples I have. This one, sure, it can take a little bit to explain all these little things. So in that sense, sure, Legolas could be complicated. Normally, models with exemptions to rules can be pretty complicated, but once the rule is broken down with the added clarification about the infantry part, it is very clear cut on how this model works. People have asked additional questions that they want FAQ'd in regards to it and all that. Sure, you can ask questions if it's something that comes up quite often. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if though they may still block line of sight as normal eventually is addressed. But in regards to other aspects like shooting into combat with deadly shot and how that all works, when you break it down, you see the examples. This is how it works. It is unambiguous. There are only a couple spots that might not track, and GW might pull the ultimate. It always worked this way with the block line of sight as normal, and make some alternative claim. We don't know. GW does that every once in a while. But for now, that is all for this model. I'll be doing further rule stuff in the future, especially with the new barge stuff. I want to touch on that, though it might require additional clarification from GW, as we've learned after my recent video. There is a note that might make it further unclear. But in the future, we'll be doing that. And then we'll also be back soon in regards to my latest event and looking at that in addition to my hobbying prep for my next event. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.